Hello and welcome to Winchester Now. I'm Anna O'Brien. On today's programme we have stories from around the city and some uplifting community shout-outs to share with you. And we are on the move with lots of talk of running around, walking and cycling. Winchester Radio. Anti-poverty charity Christians Against Poverty, partnering with Hope Church here in Winchester, are working together to raise awareness of the latest research by CAP, which shows the ongoing impact of the rising cost of living on people in the UK. As part of this month's Challenge Poverty Week, CAP teams from across the south came together and are walking the whole 143 miles from Winchester to Canterbury via Guildford and Rochester to raise awareness of poverty and also to shine a light on the help available to anyone who is struggling financially. Winchester Radio went along on Monday morning this week to meet members of the charity Christians Against Poverty as they met together outside Winchester Cathedral before setting off on the first leg of their walk. We spoke to volunteers and also staff, including Babs Isaac and Tim Barry.
We're here to raise awareness of poverty in the southeast, so we're actually starting the Pilgrims walk from here to Canterbury, and it begins in Winchester at the King Alfred's Memorial. And
that's quite a distance.
It is quite a distance. It's not the people starting today are not doing the whole walk. It's done in a relay across the southeast region to raise awareness of people really struggling in poverty in our region and how we as Christians Against Poverty can help.
And of course, lots of people think of the south as an affluent area, but every city, even here in Winchester, has areas where people are so struggling with the cost of living, with the high cost of fuel, with bills, with food. And what kind of issues have people been coming to you with at Christians Against Poverty?
25% of people in the southeast will skip a meal at the moment because of poverty. 34% of people will be anxious and actually have sleepless nights because of their financial situation. So even though it might seem on the surface an affluent area, there unfortunately are many people who are struggling. So Christians Against Poverty helps through helping people with their debts, helping them become free of debt. It helps people find work through what we call job clubs, and it helps people live better with life skills. But here in Winchester with Hope Church we have a debt centre, so the people of Winchester can be helped through the CAP centre in Hope Church, which is amazing.
And I know there's a helpline nationally people can phone and then they can find out about the local services in the area, but just for our listeners who may be struggling and maybe haven't reached out and asked people, you do provide courses that people can get along to on money management and helping with debt, and lots of the feedback from people who go to those is they slept well for the first time in ages. Just being able to talk to somebody about some of those issues really helps. So tell us a little bit about some of those courses that support people.
Yeah, so we have our job club course, so that helps people who are facing unemployment and find work again. So that's really important for people who obviously need to have work to help with their finances, and it's all about building a community. So we're very much walking alongside people, helping them with CVs, interview techniques, applying for jobs. We also have something called Life Skills, which is geared towards helping people live well on the income that they have. So helping them know how to shop well, how to budget, how to actually cook well on a budget as well. So it's a very, very practical course, and it's all about what we're about at Christians Against Poverty. It's all about coming alongside people, walking with them, supporting them, and building a community. And it makes a fantastic difference to people's lives.
And it really does equip people with such valuable skills for life as well. And I guess people don't feel on their own anymore. The fact they're getting support alongside others is so helpful.
That's absolutely true. Yeah, that's absolutely right. And it is really important, that whole community aspect of people coming together, realising they're not on their own. So I just encourage people, if you know of somebody who is struggling, or if you yourself are struggling, do go to the CAP website, capuk.org, where you'll be able to find out more about what we do and seek help. But also here in Winchester at Hope Church, right in the centre of Winchester, that's where we run a debt centre run by our amazing debt centre manager, Babs Isaac.
And it's hugely helpful to know that resource is here in the city centre. But I also think for our listeners, Christians Against Poverty, people will hear the name of the charity. You're open to all, aren't you? Anyone?
We are open to all, yes. Yeah, I mean, the clue is in the title. We are Christians Against Poverty. We are followers of Jesus Christ. We firmly believe in sharing the gospel with people, but we help people regardless of whether they want to hear about Jesus or not. We're not backwards in coming forwards about our faith, but neither do we force our faith on anybody. And it's all about actually helping people. It's about sharing the gospel through practical help, but also through telling them about Jesus, which we firmly believe is vital to us all.
And for people who are coming to you, they are obviously struggling financially. I think the other thing to point out is there's no financial barrier to somebody coming and asking you for help. There isn't like a huge cost for the money management courses you're running.
All the courses that we offer, all the help that we offer is free. So whether that's helping people come out of debt, that is free, or whether it's somebody joining a job club or a life skills group, that is also free. So yeah, absolutely, there is no charge whatsoever for the services that CAP offers through the churches that partner with us.
And I'm going to ask you, Tim, how long you've been involved working for Christians Against Poverty, and what do you find most rewarding about the role?
I've been involved with CAP for 5.5 years, and the thing I find most rewarding about the role is working with people like Babs Isaac, the debt centre manager here in Winchester, and supporting them as they seek to serve those around them and helping them and holding out the truth of the gospel at the same time as encouraging people to live well and giving them the tools to do that.
Hi, I'm Babs Isaac. I'm the Christians Against Poverty Debt Centre here in Winchester.
And why is this so important to you this week?
Well, it's Challenge Poverty Week, and we want to make a stand against poverty. We want to raise the profile that there is free debt counselling advice here in Winchester, and that there's no shame about asking for help.
And with the cost of living, you must have seen so many more people coming through your doors at Hope asking for help.
Yeah, it's definitely on the increase. There's more and more people coming. Another debt advice centre in Winchester is closing. So apart from Citizens Advice, I believe we are the only ones in Winchester still offering counselling advice here.
Well, we wish you great success with this walk.
Thank you so much.
My name's Joanne Ellis.
And Joanne, you are one of the pilgrims starting off from Winchester Cathedral. You're going to be walking to Easton as part of this walk for Christians Against Poverty. Why have you got involved?
Because I'm part of the CAP team, and I think it's absolutely amazing what they do. And obviously, this day and age, money is everything. And I think it's, I'm just glad to be part of the CAP team, and money issues and things like that. We all can't afford things going up in price. So, yeah, I just, it's a shame. So I'm just enjoying the Pilgrims walk.
Joe there telling us just how beneficial the charity Christians Against Poverty are. We also spoke to Kath, who works for the charity here in Winchester, and she said it's just great seeing lots of people go debt free, such a weight off their shoulders. And we spoke to volunteers Ursula and also Rini, who said it was great to be able to help people and wonderful to see the change in people from when they came in and just how much better they felt at the end of the process as well. Before the walkers set off, they all joined together outside Winchester Cathedral, and a prayer was said by Winchester Cathedral's Canon Gary Philbrick before sending them on their way.
It's a wonderful thing that you're doing. There is something really special about walking together, and when you're doing it for some sort of purpose like you are as well, you'll get an enormous, I hope, I've said to Babs, I was walking the Camino in Spain for 3 weeks earlier in the year, and sometimes just the walking is really sort of powerful, just to be walking along and having time to think and space that you don't normally get in everyday life, and then you're doing it for this additional cause as well. So I hope it goes really well, and that the baton gets handed on from you to the next lot all the way to Canterbury.
Okay, are we ready to go?
Yeah.
Walkers!
Here we go.
Hello again, I'm Paul Blitz, and this week we have lots of uplifting community shout-outs to share with you. First of all, a big well done to everyone who took part in the Great South Run on Sunday. There were over 20,000 participants, and many of them were raising money for local good causes, including John, Matt and Sarah, who are running to support the Winchester Hospice. And then there was Dr Matt Nisbet and 4 other colleagues from the Crown Medical Centre in Basingstoke, all raising funds to buy medical equipment to support their community. Winchester Beacon has given a big thank you to the schools and churches who have already dropped by with generous harvest donations. Items donated during harvest are stored and used through the year to make meals for the residents. The charity says it also makes up packs of essential food for their residents when they move to their own accommodation to help them get started. A list of the most needed items can be found on the Winchester Beacon's website. The Winchester Basics Bank plus the Community Pantry at Unit 12 in Winnell, along with the Community Pantry that's located at the Carroll Centre in Stanmore, are also in need of help. A charity harvest supper organised by the Winchester Sir Optimists is our next community shout out today. The successful supper, quiz and raffle enable the group to be able to donate £400 to Solar Aid. Solar lamps will improve the lives of women and girls in remote African villages, enabling them to work and study with effective lighting. The caring work of volunteers was in the spotlight and being celebrated recently at the parish of St Peter and the Winchester Martyrs. The Catholic parish organised a wonderful tea party on Sunday to say thank you to all of the volunteers who generously give their time to help out in the parish with the various ministries and community outreach activities. Well done also to Moira and her team for organising this, kindly baking cakes and making the get-together for volunteers possible. And our final shout out this week is to say a great big thank you to everyone who supported our recent fundraising coffee morning at Rick Stein's Winchester in aid of the charity Winchester Radio. This fun occasion raised £498. Small charities like ours need public support to keep doing what we do, so thank you very much to all who attended and donated. More shout outs from me next week.
Winchester Radio.
Families, businesses and schools in the Winchester area are being encouraged to set up cycle buses. The idea is for cyclists to ride together as a group, with children and less experienced riders on the inside and adult riders on the front, back and outside. There are stops on the way allowing for more to join in. Winchester has one of the first secondary school cycle buses in the country, operating from Colden Common and Twyford to Westgate and Kings. Now the campaign group Cycle Winchester wants other areas to copy the idea. The group's Emma Street spoke to Winchester Radio's Mary Blaxland.
So a cycle bus is a really simple concept. It's basically a mobile cycle lane. As you will probably know, in this country we're a bit behind the curve, to say the least, in terms of dedicated cycle infrastructure. So a cycle bus is basically a way of getting maybe less confident and more experienced riders together, usually going from A to B, perhaps picking up people en route. So for example, you might start in a kind of neighbourhood where you know several people want to get to place B, right? So you might go to a school, college, place of work, etc.
How many cycle buses do we have so far then in Winchester, and where do they run?
So we actually have the first secondary school cycle bus in the country that we know of, and that's running from Colden Common and Twyford into the Winchester secondary schools, so King's School and Westgate School. That's a real pioneering route because that's coming in from a sort of, rural, semi-rural area, and really underpinned by the idea of how can we get kids active, cycling to school, taking parents out of that trap of having to drive their kids into school, battle the traffic, all of the stress that creates. So we've got that one. We've got a cycle bus that runs to St Bede School from Abbots Barton. That's a kind of collective of parents who are already cycling with their kids, and that's really how cycle buses often start out. They start out with maybe a parent and a child who do this and think, wouldn't it be fun to ride with more people? How can we get more people into that? And then we're talking to head teachers and parents at another 2 primary schools at the moment about how we can get things started. And there's resource there now. We were lucky enough to get a small grant from Winchester Town Forum to buy some kit. So if you're thinking about setting up a cycle bus, we can help you with that. So Cycle Winchester has got some kit, things like high-vis vests, bells, locks and stuff like that. And also we're getting more knowledge really about how cycle buses work. We can help you recce out a route, and we're really pleased to partner with Winchester Cycle Bus Network so that we can really spread the message and share that knowledge and expertise.
And what's the take-up been like so far?
We've had a lot of interest, so I've got a conversation next week with someone from another primary school. Numbers do sometimes take a little while to build. Partly this is about kind of giving a sense that there is something to join here, so that's actually why the kit and the visibility of a bus is really important. So I think if you speak to teachers who talk about travel in schools, they'll often talk about how kids really want to cycle, but if you don't see that as a normal thing, perhaps you don't have a bike readily accessible or your parents don't routinely cycle and you don't see people on their bikes day to day, then it doesn't feel like a kind of normal thing to do. So a cycle bus is partly about normalising, making visible the journeys that some people are making and trying to generate interest and kind of build numbers, really. This is partly a numbers game. Just imagine how much we would cut down school traffic, how much air quality would improve, how much the health and concentration of our children would improve if we just converted a number of school car journeys to bike journeys.
Yeah, like you said, there's so many benefits, aren't there, from doing something like this, environmentally, health-wise. The people who are doing it at the moment, they must enjoy it.
Absolutely. I think that's probably the word I haven't yet said, and really actually it's the number one word, and that is, it is fun. If you've ever seen a young kid, that is the number one thing about a bike bus actually. It is so much fun. The joy that you see young kids getting somewhere under their own steam, riding with their friends, it is such a positive start to the day and has real benefits for their learning as well as their health and all the things that we've spoken about.
And so for the future, hopefully more schools involved, more parents, more children.
Absolutely, that's the message really. If you're interested in setting up a bike bus, come and speak to or contact either Cycle Winchester, or as I said, we've got the Winchester Cycle Bus Network. Basically we're a network of volunteers with some experience in running cycle buses. We would just love to see more people on bikes, having fun and just having the most positive start to their day.
Now here's Nigel Dallard with some of this week's local news in brief.
Winchester City Council's Cabinet meeting on Tuesday this week approved more than £1 million to fund a number of community infrastructure projects across the Winchester district. These projects include funds allocated to the GP surgery at Bishop's Waltham, Waterloo Leisure Centre and improvements to public toilets. This week is Household Support Fund Awareness Week. The fund is allocated to county councils by central government. This year, Hampshire's share is £14.2 million, of which £8.8 million has already been allocated, funding initiatives such as community pantries and other community projects, as well as supermarket vouchers for low-income and vulnerable families. To find out if your family might be eligible for support, visit the connectforcommunities.org website. It's also Winchester Fashion Week this week, which is organised by Winchester Bid, and will see a number of activities taking place in and around the city, including an exhibition on costume design at the Winchester City Museum, a wellness and beauty event, and the grand finale catwalk show on Saturday, showcasing national brands and independent retailers here in Winchester. For more information on the full lineup of events, times and venues, see the Winchester Fashion Week website. Also on Saturday, Winchester Walking Football Club is having an open day at the University of Winchester Sports Stadium, which is behind the Winchester Sports and Leisure Centre, and is inviting the public to have a look around, meet members and find out more about getting involved. Walking football is a non-contact version of the game, open to people of all abilities, and it offers a wealth of physical, social and health benefits. The club is open to all genders aged 50 and over, and members will be present to discuss the sport and also take part in some warm-up sessions and training drills before playing an exhibition match against an invitational women's international 11, including some Southampton and England 1972 legends. The open day starts at 1 p.m. and the exhibition match begins at 2:30 p.m. Parking is at the Barfield Park and Ride site. For more information, visit winchesterwalkingfc.com.
A new report by leading walking charity The Ramblers highlights the inequality in access to the great outdoors in Britain. I caught up with the charity's head of paths, Jack Cornish, to find out more and hear how the Ramblers are campaigning for positive change and to learn more about the vital role that their volunteers play.
My team sort of oversees and supports about 4,500 volunteers across the country that just work on paths at the Ramblers. So they do everything from diving into the historical record to reclaim, old lost paths, to getting out on the ground and cutting back vegetation and some of them literally building bridges in the countryside. So it's a really varied role, but it's fantastic to meet and to support those volunteers.
And of course, volunteering is a great thing for our well-being. And I know here in the Winchester area, there have been many led walks by members of the Ramblers. Great way to bring people together who might otherwise be lonely or isolated, because it's very sociable enjoying the outdoors.
Exactly, and volunteering with the Ramblers, there's so many different opportunities. As you said, we lead thousands of walks across the country every week, and they can be for people wanting to go longer walk. We also have a scheme called Wellbeing Walks, which is for people that maybe don't get out walking that much and want to sort of get started or have sort of long-term health conditions. Or you can we've got volunteering on paths, which is really about protecting that network of paths and opening it and clearing the way so everyone can really get out and enjoy the great outdoors.
We're going to talk about the campaign and the report that's come out just about the key importance of outdoor space and making it accessible for all. But I think we certainly saw those inequalities during the pandemic when people had that single opportunity to get outside. It might have been more difficult to enjoy nature. And of course, it's so key to our well-being and our mental and emotional health.
We definitely saw some of these inequalities during the pandemic. I mean, with the research that we've commissioned from the New Economics Foundation, we really wanted to understand where public rights of way are in relation to people. And it really showed a stark divide in terms of age, ethnicity and income. And we found that just in rural areas, the wealthiest rural areas have 15% more paths than some of the more deprived ones. So there's a real difference in people's ability to get out on the paths. And even if the paths are there, they may not be the most accessible for everyone. So we've commissioned some polling from YouGov, and we really wanted to understand what enables but also what stops people getting out on the path network. And about 22% of people in England said that physical barriers stop them using paths. But we also asked 1,000 people with physical and sensory disabilities, and it rose to 56% of people said they don't use paths because of physical barriers. So we really want to see an accessible countryside, and one that is really extensive in relation to where people live.
And I think the accessibility thing is quite a key thing, because people will want independence. They may have a disability, but they want to head out on their own and go for a walk. And of course, if you're in a terrain where it's not so level or it's overgrown and there's nobody to help, or you're coming across those barriers or kissing gates that stop you continuing on that route, they all are difficulties for somebody who wants to enjoy nature and have the benefit of it that we're all entitled to.
Exactly. I mean, we actually found from this report that just in terms of health and well-being, the network is worth an estimated £2 billion a year. So that's £33 per person in England and Wales, which is the cost of about 8.5 million ambulance calls. So it has a massive well-being benefit. But as we said, the path network is nowhere near as accessible as it should be. And I think it's worth saying that a more accessible path network is more accessible for everyone. It isn't just for people who might use a wheelchair, for instance. If you've got young kids or grandkids in the buggy, the barriers can really stop people using the network. But also if you just want to go for a walk and not have to stop every 20 metres and climb over a stile and just keep on walking, removing some of those barriers makes a big difference for everyone.
And certainly with the current cost of living crisis, one of the great benefits of walking is that it's free. People can be close to nature. Sometimes for those who are working from home, it's a really useful, mindful break from the desk to pop out at lunchtime, even if it's only for 10 or 15 minutes, to enjoy the fresh air and blow away the cobwebs. So do tell us, what are the Ramblers asking the government to do in terms of the inequalities that you've identified, and just how widespread is the problem across the country?
It is really widespread. For instance, the wealthiest areas in England and Wales have 80% more paths in their local area than the residents of the most deprived. So that's a really stark difference. And also we found that the areas with the worst health outcomes have the lowest number of paths. So you can really see some of the sort of the knock-on impact of that. What we're calling for is long-term support for the path network. So that could be legislation that makes our path network more accessible. There's also thousands of miles of lost paths that need to be reclaimed. So we want, government to support that work. And we need a long-term strategy for investment in the path network. We're not expecting hundreds of £1 million to come flowing next week, but what we want is actually a long-term investment in the path network, as we believe it's critical national infrastructure, and therefore it needs the support of government and hopefully of the public.
The Ramblers have a long-term campaign, as you've alluded to, don't lose your way. And so important that those lost paths aren't lost to everybody and people do have access.
Don't Lose Your Way is really about reclaiming paths that have been lost over the last 120 years. And we've identified that there might be up to 49,000 miles of those paths in England and Wales. So it's a massive network that could be reclaimed and brought back to life. And actually, we found just in Hampshire, on average, there's 800 metres of path within a 10-minute walk of someone's house that has been lost and that could be reclaimed. So there's a real network that's out there that's waiting to sort of rise again and be put back on the map.
In terms of the inequality you have identified with this latest research you've commissioned, where can our listeners find out more and how can they get involved?
So if they go to ramblers.org.uk/paths or just Google Ramblers and paths, you can read the research in detail. It's really detailed, fantastic, groundbreaking research. So I'd encourage everyone to look at that. And then also share and to be talking to their, local councillors, to their MPs about the importance of the path network, because the Ramblers are standing up for the paths and we'd love people to come and join us with that.
And in terms of volunteering, obviously key resource for your charity, what sort of volunteer roles and what different things could people do? Because I'm sure there's many ways folks can help. Even if they can't get out and about themselves, they can probably help with some volunteer roles from home on the campaigning side.
Exactly. Just in paths, we'd love loads more people to come and volunteer with us because it does make a massive difference. And just in the sort of paths area, if you're interested in supporting that, there's everything from doing desk-based research, to go look into the historical records to reclaim those paths that I was talking about under Don't Lose Your Way. We also have a network of volunteers that scrutinises every potential change to the path network to see if it's going to be, of benefit to walkers, all the way up to teams of people that get out on the ground and that clear vegetation and remove stiles. We've got roles of people that campaign locally for their paths. So there's so many different ways to get involved.
Winchester Radio.
That's all for this week. Our volunteers who produce Winchester Now every week hope you have enjoyed the programme. Many thanks for listening. If you want to find out more about the work of our charity Winchester Radio, how to get involved or how to support us, do please visit our website at winchester.radio.